Hello everybody and welcome back for some weekly VR news, where I keep you up to date on everything going on in the VR industry, prepare you for this week's new VR game releases, and then finally focus in on a few major stories. The good news continues, as this week's episode is almost entirely about new VR games. While this week's new releases is a bit slim, we have plenty of new release dates, game updates, and ports to go over. And finally, there's some really cool hardware to check out at the end of the video. Now, there are of course links and timestamps if you want to skip ahead, but before we jump in, this video is brought to you by my sponsor, Kiwi Design. They currently make my favorite Quest 2 Elite strap, which comes in multiple different versions. You can add an extra battery pack, high quality headphones, or even both. They also have other products like Valve Index style hand straps, and they just introduced a brand new RGB stand. Your controllers and headset magnetically connect. There's a charging indicator so you'll know when your headset's ready to go. And there's plenty of different RGB color options available. There's a link to Kiwi Design down in the description, and don't forget to use discount code Mateo311 for 5% off and to help support this channel. Okay, so let's start this video off like normal with my review check-in. I was a little under the weather this week, so besides a few hours of a Medieval, I really didn't play many VR titles. If you haven't checked out that game, I do have a review up and I highly recommend it, as it's a fantastic fast-paced retro shooter. Now, there's no reviews coming down the pipeline for this week, but I will have some extra fun videos releasing on Wednesday and Friday. For now though, let's move on to some new releases. Last week, I accidentally missed the asymmetrical multiplayer battle game VR Tribes. This is an extremely interesting concept similar to Vertigo, Cakeling's House Party, or even Panoptic, where one VR player is competing against multiple flat-screen gamers. The headset wearer takes on the role of a gigantic creature who can easily dispatch the much smaller flat-screen gamers. Ultimately, it becomes a fast-paced battle of brains versus brawn. Now, as cool as this title appears, as a PCVR only title, it's currently lacking a player base, and it doesn't look like they'll be able to turn that around unless they're able to port this title to Quest. But speaking of ports, Fantavision 2020X is releasing on Steam later this week. This is a VR remake of the action puzzle game released in the early 2000s. Fantavision has you strategically targeting fireworks in order to chain them together and release some visual eye candy. Now, the VR version also introduces a new dynamic mode, which will put you up close and personal with the game's action. So if you're looking for a mini game style puzzler that just sucks you in, you might want to go check out Fantavision 2020X. But for more true-to-life immersion, Eye of the Temple is finally releasing on the Quest 2. This is a uniquely VR experience that utilizes room-scale locomotion and makes you feel like Indiana Jones exploring a long-lost temple. You'll have to balance yourself on floating logs, dodge obstacles, and finally use your whip not only to defend yourself, but to help solve some puzzles. If you love the unique style of immersion that only VR can deliver, Eye of the Temple is a title that you absolutely have to check out. Now, that's all of this week's new releases, but the Pico 4 also continues to port more and more games over, and this week's list is looking pretty solid. First up is my favorite VR platformer, Morse Book 2, which has you finishing Quill's epic journey. Even if this game doesn't look like it's right for you, please don't sleep on it, it's absolutely fantastic. Next up is the zany tower defense title, Captain Toonhead vs. the Punks from Outer Space. Now, if you are a tower defense fan, VR doesn't have many options, so Captain Toonhead wins by default, but overall it is a solid and unique experience. Next up, we have the gravity-defying Rube Goldberg machine building puzzler, Gravity Lab. It's a really fun experience that'll have you solving puzzles with the use of unique tools. It's similar to something like Gadgeteer, with the added nuance of low gravity. Now, the next few titles I'm not familiar with, but we have A Book in the Distance, which is a story-driven experience following the racism a Japanese man faced moving into Canada in 1935. We also have Final Soccer VR, a sports simulator, and finally Future Class, which is a virtual reality online learning tool. But that's it for new releases, and let's move into some new game announcements. The story-driven zombie shooter Propagation Paradise Hotel is set to release for both PCVR and Quest on May 4th, and not only has it been announced that it's coming to the PlayStation VR 2, but we also got an amazing new gameplay trailer. Previously, this game was already looking good, but now it's just looking so much better. I know people like to say zombies are played out in VR, but you can't knock it if it just works so well. So thanks to this recent trailer, my overall excitement level went from to alright. But if you're looking for something different, we also got a May release date for Humanity. Humanity has you taking on the role of a dog who must shepherd all of mankind. This looks like the ultimate game of Lemmings, where people will just blindly march on, and if you don't help them avoid obstacles, they're destined to unalive themselves. At launch, the game will also feature a level generator, so you can not only create puzzles to challenge other individuals, but you could sample everything the internet has to offer. As someone who grew up loving Lemmings, I'm not going to be able to pass on this title. But if you're looking for better graphics, deeper immersion, and more challenging puzzles, Firmament is releasing on the same week as Humanity. This puzzle adventure title is from the legendary studio that brought us Myst and Riven. You'll be exploring 3 mysterious realms, each featuring a unique steampunk aesthetic and thrilling new sights to see around each corner. Now, if you're familiar with games like Myst, you know exactly what you're in store for, but for everyone else, that's eye candy, challenging puzzles, and highly immersive storytelling. And the very similar experience, Red Matter 2, was recently announced to be coming to the PSVR 2. This is a match made in heaven, as Red Matter 2 features stunning VR visuals, and the PlayStation VR 2 is in need of a good puzzle title. Besides those stunning visuals, Red Matter also offers an intriguing storyline, a lengthy campaign, truly challenging puzzles, and even a little bit of combat. Overall, it's a top-notch game, and I'm glad to see it coming to the PlayStation. And our final game announcement is for the imminent release of the physics-based fantasy-themed fighter Battle Talent. If you enjoy something like Blade and Sorcery, but you're sick of battling simple humans and using realistic weaponry, well then go ahead and hop into Battle Talent. I've tried it through various stages in development, and not only is it a worthy alternative to Blade and Sorcery, but the title also stands on its own no problem. Now, we don't have the official release date just yet, but it's said to be coming very soon. And that concludes our game announcements, but we also have some amazing updates, plus an excellent Humble Bundle deal and a giveaway to go over. First up, VR's #1 new shooter, Vertigo 2, will be releasing a level editor. The original Vertigo title did have a level editor, and not only was it amazingly easy to use, but it also gave us tons of new experiences from the online community. Now, Vertigo 2 is already a must-play, but the added replayability of a level editor will just solidify this game as a top-tier title. Now, I know a lot of people are waiting for this game to come to the PlayStation VR 2, but the level editor is the main focus of the developer at the current moment. And speaking of great updates, Firewall Ultra has announced Ultra Mode. In some recent Firewall Ultra footage, many individuals were disappointed to see button press automatic reloading. This goes against many of the aspects that make VR great. Well, it has been announced that post-launch, Ultra Mode is coming, and with it we'll get manual reloads, friendly fire, and no aim assist. So there'll definitely be something to cater to the more hardcore players. I was personally really glad to hear that, and I'm happy to see that this game will offer features that appeals to a larger array of gamers. And that right there is our last game announcement, but I do have to mention an absolutely fantastic Humble Bundle deal. The In-Your-Face VR Game Bundle has 7 amazing titles for only $18. The majority of these titles are easily worth $18 alone, and their Steam ratings go from 83% all the way up to 93%. Now, this includes the VR MMO Zenith, the beautiful time-traveling adventure puzzle title Wanderer, the excellent spacefaring RTS Battle Group VR, the dystopian survival title Into the Radius, the anime-inspired brawler Rumble, the excellent Half-Life shooter Vertigo Remastered, and finally the open-world sandbox Superfly. I'll put a link down in the description so you guys can check this out. But for any PCVR gamers out there, I recommend you don't skip this one. And finally, if you're not into PCVR, this is the last week to enter into my PlayStation VR 2 giveaway. That's right, I'm giving away a PSVR 2 in conjunction with one of my sponsors, VR Rock. There's also a link to that down in the description, and if you want to say thank you for this giveaway, the best thing you could do is give this video a thumbs up and leave a comment. But let's move on to a few hardware stories. The hybrid handheld console / VR headset, the Pimax Portal, will be shipping soon to Kickstarter backers. Now, as a handheld device, I'm sure it'll be adequate, but still won't offer up much more than your typical cell phone, and I'm skeptical it makes for a comfortable VR gaming headset. Now, it could definitely be wrong on both accounts, and we'll just wait and see what people think when these devices are out in the wild. Now, if you're interested in the extreme end of VR tech, the developers of the X-Tal headset have announced a portable combat sim trainer. Everything you need, including an X-Tal 3 headset, a computer to run it, plus flight stick and throttle controls, all comes in a single package that can be set up within 30 minutes. Now, as cool as this looks, it's obviously targeted at enterprise and designed for on-site training locations. If you want a flight sim setup for yourself, a permanent setup is most likely a lot more affordable. And our final topic for today is updates to the VR Sense Glove. The company has recently secured an additional $3.5 million in funding, bringing their total up to roughly $6 million. Their goal is to create haptic gloves that emulates lifelike feedback. It needs to be accurate enough that you can build muscle memory while repeating virtual tasks, and they're utilizing an array of different feedback methods to make this possible. Now, just like the last piece of technology I covered, don't expect to utilize this in your home anytime soon, because the current model is designed for enterprise and sells for over $5,000. But enterprise level tech does eventually make its way down to the consumer, so who knows what the future has in store for us.
And that was today's video, brought to you by my dad, Mateo311. If you enjoyed it, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you're new here,
Consider subscribing.
consider subscribing.
Consider subscribing.
Consider subscribing.
Consider subscribing.
Consider subscribing.
We'll see you guys on next time.
We'll see you guys on next time.